So I think it's very, very easy to say now that the 2024 NBA draft lottery was absolutely crazy. I mean, the fact that the Atlanta Hawks had like a 3% chance to win it and did is just mind-blowing. Again, I actually told my mate like a day or two before the draft lottery happens, I just feel like some random team is going to win it. Unfortunately, there were no cameras on, so I got no proof of this. I'm like flight with basically everything he says. But I really did feel like some random team was going to win it. I did not think, though, it would be the Atlanta Hawks, who do have the #1 overall pick, which is absolutely crazy. So I'm very excited to, of course, get straight into this with you guys, because again, I'm not going to lie, a lot of my picks have definitely changed now, and I've been watching some other mock drafts, and I really do think there are a lot of crazy opinions going around, just because no one really can judge this draft, as it just changes every single day. It's really like the 2013 draft, where there's only a couple stars in it, but there's so many good role players that you can take, but there's also a chance that a couple of these guys definitely might be bust. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it with the first overall pick, which does belong to the Atlanta Hawks. I actually do have them selecting Alexander Sarr. Now, you guys know, who have been watching my draft videos for a bit now, Alexander Sarr, or Alex Sarr, as most of you guys probably know him by, is probably nearly my favorite player in the draft. Again, he actually is born and raised in France, but did actually play his basketball for the Perth Wildcats in the Australian NBL League, where he absolutely dominated. Again, one of the best, if not the best defender in this whole entire draft class. He would be so perfect for the Atlanta Hawks, whether they trade Trae Young or keep him. Again, I would love to see a duo of Trae Young and Alex Sarr. Again, this guy can play center, he can play power forward, he can basically do anything you really need him to do. Again, his #1 NBA comparison is, of course, Evan Mobley. A lot of people have been comparing him to Evan Mobley, who legitimately finished, I think, 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year count in only his, I think it was his 2nd year in the NBA. Evan Mobley finished 3rd. Again, these last year he's had a lot of injuries, but again, this guy is one of the best power forward / centers in the league, and Alexander Sarr plays exactly like him. Again, the ability to not only guard the center position, but to be quick enough to move out and be a power forward and guard the perimeter is truly underrated in this league. Again, there's not many players that can do it. There's only a handful of guys that can switch from power forward to center with absolute ease, and Alex Sarr definitely is one of those guys. Again, he's jumped up to being #1 on nearly every mock draft, I believe, except I think ESPN still has him at 2, if I remember right, which is really, really weird. But the fact is, this guy can do everything. He's a very good rebounder, very good defender. I actually believe he has a really underrated mid-range shot. And again, if you've got this guy open, really, if it's going to be a floater shot in the paint or whatever, he's 99% of the time probably going to hit it. But again, that mid-range shot has definitely come through really nicely, and we got to see what some of it does look like in the NBL, where he was against literal grown men and some of the best competition in the whole entire world. Again, some people would argue that that league is the 2nd best league in the world, and he was able to show his mid-range shot off, and when he was open, he would often hit it down. And, you know, again, the only thing that I think Sarr really kind of struggles with is I don't think he's the greatest 3-point shooter, but again, like Evan Mobley, will occasionally hit that 3-point shot. And let's be honest here, with how he plays, you don't need to be a good 3-point shooter. If you've got that mid-range game, which he does have, you've already got a leg over a 50% of the centers in the NBA already. And not just that, he's already a better defender than most of them. He's a better rebounder than half of them already as well. Again, this guy has, as I just previously said, experience with playing on, men and obviously great competition and not just, high schoolers who are going into college as well. He has played on all different shapes and sizes, the best competition outside of the NBA, arguably in the world. Great defenders, great shooters. He's going to be a gem for the Atlanta Hawks. And again, there's still a lot of rumors going around that Trae Young might get traded. I still believe they should keep him, but again, Woj also was one of those reporters, and when Woj is reporting on something, he's usually cooking. I actually feel like, though, Trae Young would be pretty happy to take somewhat of a back seat, and wait for this rebuild to, build around him. Again, I don't think he would particularly too care. If he does, then he probably will get traded. But if he wants to wait for a couple years, because it looks like the Hawks are going to try and rebuild, like the rumors are saying, you're already adding Alexander Sarr to this team. You've got Jalen Johnson, who was absolutely fantastic for them. Trae Young in his own right, who is still relatively young. Again, he's not that old. This team looks like it's heading in the right direction. They can obviously move on from Capella now if they want to as well, which I think they've been wanting to do for like a year or two. Onyeka Okongwu, I still think is a backup big in this league. I'm not sure what they're going to do with him, but I think he would be very good serviceable with Sarr. And if not, maybe even playing Sarr at power forward minutes. There's no reason why as well you can't start Onyeka Okongwu and Alexander Sarr together. And I still think that's a big chance for the Hawks to do. So again, I think this makes a really great pick. He's, in my opinion, by far the best player in the draft. Can do absolutely everything, really. And I think could very well come straight into the NBA and be one of the better big men in the league. And he's already played against that NBL competition. So skies are the limit for this man. And I think with the first overall pick, it just makes so much sense for the Atlanta Hawks to, of course, select Alexander Sarr. Now, with the second overall pick, we have the Washington Wizards, and I've seen almost everybody and their dad take a different player with this pick. I think they obviously really wanted Sarr. Unfortunately, they can't get him, as I have him going number 1 overall. But in my opinion, the next best player is actually Zachary Rasache, who is also out of France, which is pretty funny because if Rasache does go too, that means pick 1 and pick 2 will be out of France. Again, Rasache is a 6'10" wing / forward. Again, extremely long arms, insanely efficient 3-point shooter, which is very impressive for his age. He's also been efficient against professional competition, which we know, like Alexander Sarr, he has played against. He's a great passer. He can execute those really tough passes. On offense, he's just really good, not only with his passing, but his ball movement, his spacing, the mid-range shot. And then if we look at the other side, his defense. Great off-ball defender. He clogs up the passing lane, switches really well, and is a good help defender when needed. Not only is he good off-ball, but he also is really good on-ball, and he can stick with some of the smaller players at that shooting guard position if he really needs to. He's great with dealing with wings, great with dealing with forwards as well, and he's obviously played professional competition. And again, that's obviously going to translate to the NBA. Unfortunately, unlike Sarr, there is 1 or 2 downsides with, I think, Rasache. Again, reports say he does struggle with guarding bigger players. He is coming in pretty skinny, but I think that really doesn't matter because in the NBA, you give him a year or 2 in the weight room and he will be able to guard those stronger players in no time. So I don't see that being too much of a downside. The only one which I don't like is he isn't exactly the most athletic guy, and it might take him a bit of time to convert to the pace and athleticism that is in the NBA. But again, when we're looking at this dude, he is an elite shooter, which is what the NBA absolutely loves. And I think the Washington Wizards desperately need. Now, where they're going to be going in this upcoming season, I'm not too sure. They were obviously one of the worst teams in the league, but there's definitely room for them to obviously improve. I definitely feel like they're going to try and get an off-season in a Jordan Poole and get him back to what he previously was as a player. They're going to want another year in Bilal Coulibaly, who was very young coming into this Wizards team. I'm not sure if they're going to keep Kuzma, but if they do, Rasache and Kuzma at that forwards positions could be a good 1-2 punch. And then, yeah, it's probably going to take another year or two to develop in these drafts by adding another center or two. But again, when we look at it, some people might have Bazulis, or some people might have Topic as the best player, the second best player in this draft. In my opinion, Rasashe's still there. I believe if the Pistons actually got the number 1 overall pick, they probably would have even taken this guy with 1 over Sarge, just because he fits their team better. And also, I think there's signs that he could be one of the league's best, right? With how the Wizards are going, and they're going to be looking probably like they're going to have another 2 or so years, if not more, rebuilding, right? They're definitely going to have time to develop players like Rasashe, and getting Rasashe in the gym, getting some weight on him, you're already going to knock half the criticisms that he does have already going into this draft. The realistic thing is as well, in my opinion, again, he is an elite shooter. He is one of the best shooters in the whole entire draft. He can also create his own shot. He can shoot, obviously being an off-ball player as well. It's going to be really, really good. And I think this guy has all-star level all over him. And also, if they do decide to keep Kuzma and they don't find a trade for him, again, that still might take some time. And also to build his trade value back up and slowly build this team into being more of a winning outfit. I think he would low-key be a good 1-2 punch combo, I should say, with Kyle Kuzma. What the hell am I trying to say, man? I think they would actually work really well together at that forward positions. Of course, Koulibaly at that 2, I think, as well. And that's a really tall team. Like, Koulibaly at the 2 is very tall. Rasashe 6'10", playing the small forward position, which is tall. And then again, Jordan Poole. Do they want to go with him at point guard? Maybe. He's more of a shooting guard, obviously. But low-key, a team of Poole at the 1, Koulibaly at the 2, Rasashe at the 3, and Kuzma at the 4. It's not too bad. They obviously are still very young, very immature, need to develop as a team. Obviously getting a center in as well. But yeah, that's not that bad. And I actually think the Washington Wizards would really like that. And that's why I've got them taking Rasashe with the 2nd overall pick. Now with pick number 3, we do have the Houston Rockets, who I believe actually have Brooklyn's pick, which I didn't even know that was going to get this high. I think this is one of the surprise ones that, of course, also jumped in that top 5. Again, they got a ton of great players to, of course, select with this pick. I've actually got them taking Martez Bazulis, though, who a lot of people have on all different ways. I've actually seen some guy have Bazulis at the 1st overall pick, and then some guys have him at pick 7. I really, really like Bazulis and how he plays. He's another one of those guys who has now played against, obviously, veteran experience playing in the G League. He's played against grown-ass, man. He has done all of that type of stuff. Again, he is a very, very good player. Extremely high basketball IQ, who consistently makes great plays on both sides of the ball. He's a great mover off the ball as well. Like, there's a chance you're going to hit this dude up in the corner if you find him open, of course. Again, he's a very solid passer. Some people are saying that he is one of the best passers in this whole entire draft. Again, the stats might not show it, but as a 6'10" small forward, the fact that this guy can run the floor and pass it with absolute ease is absolutely awesome. His shot is really, really good, and he can hit the 3-point really well, I believe, too. And again, he's a really solid off-ball defender who is definitely going to convert to the NBA on both sides of the court. Again, some downsides, right? Sometimes his scoring was a bit inefficient, but he being in the G League and playing against that competition, that can happen. You're going to have games where he would be matched up against a 23-year-old young inexperienced guy who he probably tore apart. But then he's going to have games where he was probably against some really experienced guy who would have been twice as strong as him, really making it hard for him to score. Again, getting that experience in now already combats it for the NBA. Again, sometimes the ball in his hands when he's not looking to pass can be a little bit not that good. Like, he can, turn it over or get the ball stolen off him. But then when he does have, the ball in his hands and he's not got super competition at him, again, he does make a very good pass of the ball. that can also be led to, again, he's playing really, really good and experienced guys. Outside of maybe the NBL, the G League would be the other elite competition outside of the NBA too. So there's some very good guys he had to play against. A lot of people are actually comparing him to Franz Wagner with just his scoring and his shooting. As mentioned earlier, he's a great shooter, right? And the best thing is too, he can score, whether it's being an off-ball player or a shot creator. Martez Bazulis can absolutely do both. Now, he's going to come into this Houston Rockets team and be very, very effective. I still think they'll be looking at some forwards. They might be moving on from Jashawn Tate or whatever, a couple other players here and there maybe as well. But I think they've got their guards. They like Fred VanVleet. They like Amen Thompson too. So I think they're good on their guards. They've got Alfred Şengün at center, Jock Landale at backup, who got better and better as the season went. I think they'll be looking for a forward with this pick, and I definitely feel like Bazulis is the best available there. He can fit in with their defensive, scheme that they're trying to, of course, do over there in Houston. And again, he adds another shot creator to Fred VanVleet and Alfred Şengün. And the reality is, I think he could literally start tomorrow for the Houston Rockets. This is a really good player who makes a ton of sense. Again, they've got good players there. Like if maybe they want to start Amen Thompson with VanVleet next season and Brooks at the 3, Bazulis can always come off the bench to start off with. That's definitely an important scenario. Again, touch wood, this doesn't happen for the Rockets, but injuries do happen. We, of course, know that, and I think there's very well a big opportunity where he's starting a ton of games. Again, they got Jabari Smith, of course, at that power forward position as well. But again, if he was to get injured, touch wood doesn't happen, that's another position Bazulis can legitimately play. He can obviously play some power forward ball as well. So this is a great pick by the Houston Rockets. This is automatically going to come in and help them get that extra step into their rebuild and possibly be a playoff team next season. So very good things happening for the Houston Rockets, and this pick is obviously extremely smart and makes a ton of sense. Now moving on with the 4th overall pick, we have the San Antonio Spurs, and I've actually got them selecting the exact same guy I had them selecting before the lottery even happened, and that's of course Nikola Topic. I believe Topic makes a ton of sense for this team. You've got a 6'7" point guard who some people believe is the second best player in the draft. Again, he's the most dynamic playmaker in this whole entire draft by a considerable margin. He's extremely effective in the pick and roll, makes great skip passes, and is known to show off with some mind-boggling vision. He's one of the best passers they've seen in the draft since, of course, Josh Giddey, and could automatically come into the NBA and be one of the best passers as well. Again, there's been some doubts on his scoring ability, but he's definitely improved on that. Some saying it will already translate to the NBA. He's got a great first step, and he's fast enough to get by absolutely anyone. He's also extremely talented around the rim, being 6'7". He showed great signs with his shiftiness and would make it unstoppable if his Europe play, of course, does translate to the NBA. He's got a really good mid-range shot. He definitely needs to improve on his three-point ball, but it looks like that is very much coming as we go. Again, his main downside is his three-point shooting, as I just said. He is a pretty good off-ball defender, but his on-ball defense right now appears to not be the greatest, and he'll definitely want to improve on that in the NBA. Of course, that's something that Pop might not necessarily like, but his ball handling and creativity is outside of this world. Again, being such an incredible pick and roll player and passer, he is going to fit really well with Victor Wembanyama, and that should be the goal with this pick. Wembanyama, arguably to some, is already a top 10, top 15 player in the NBA, especially going into next season. This guy did that with not exactly the greatest passes around him. Again, no offense to Trey Jones, who is low-key a very good passer, but I just think if you're bringing in a dude like Nikola Topic, who doesn't necessarily need to be a shot creator, you've already got Vassell there, you've got Wembanyama there, and you've got Keldon Johnson, who played a lot off the bench. If you were going to tell Nikola Topic, all you need to do is come in and be an elite playmaker, play some defense, and occasionally step up as a shot creator when we need you to, this man is probably going to average 10 assists per game. Like, you're putting him in straight away, most likely as the starting point guard, under Greg Popovich, where he's going to have Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and Victor Wembanyama to play make to. And that's not even counting if they decide to sign a very good shot creator in, free agency. If they were to bring another good shot creator in, maybe even if it's a bench player, like a Malik Monk, right? Probably not him, but, just using him as an example. If you were to bring in a type of guy like that, give, obviously, Nikola Topic 4 very good shot creators to play with, this man is legitimately going to average you probably above 6 assists in his first season, which would be absolutely insane. And this guy's got 10 assists average per season, or per game, I should say, written all over him, in my opinion. He is the prototypical guy you want to obviously match Victor Wembanyama with. So I think it makes a ton of sense to go forward with this pick. He also fits Vassell's game style, who they, of course, seem to want to move with in the future as well. And again, you keep building out that starting 5, maybe sign another guy here and there as well, and you're going to have a really good team in San Antonio straight away. This makes a ton of sense for the San Antonio Spurs. And yeah, there's a lot going on here. Again, I didn't mention who he is compared with, but it is being said that he's a bit of a Manu Ginobili, Tyrese Halliburton hybrid of a player. And I think anyone who hears Tyrese Halliburton at this rate just makes you want to drop to the floor and start crying in Walmart or something because of how beautiful that man's play is on the court. Again, leading the Indiana Pacers to a second round series where they did, of course, do very, very well. I think it is a very great pick by, the San Antonio Spurs. And if you're needing to bring in a player who's going to match Wembanyama, yeah, you're practically already doing that here. So with the 4th overall pick, I've got the San Antonio Spurs selecting Nikola Topic. Now with the 5th overall pick, this is the first pick I've got where it is really hard because unfortunately, the Detroit Pistons yet again fell down in the draft, where they now have the 5th overall pick, I believe, for the 3rd year in a row. And I'm going to be honest here, in my opinion, those 4 players I just had previously drafted are the most 4 clear players in this draft. When you get to this 5th overall pick, it starts to get a lot complicated because there are a ton of guys you could absolutely draft. And when I looked at this Pistons team, I think they've really been trying to do a couple of different things, and that's, of course, correct their guards. Again, so I figured let's go with the best guard available, and that's Robert Dillingham out of Kentucky. Again, when we look at the Pistons right now, Jaden Ivey spent a lot of time coming off the bench. Again, towards the end of the season, he did start, but I think it is very, very designed by Monty Williams and the Pistons that they see him as a 6-man, whether we disagree with that or not. They also very much see Cade as that shooting guard, and then other than those two, they have no really other good guards at all. So they're definitely going to need, I think, to draft their future starting point guard here. Dillingham is arguably the best guard in this class. Again, I believe Topic is better, but there's a ton of things that Dillingham does a lot better than what Topic does, with a lot of scouts even having him ranked with the 3rd and 4th best player in this class, even over Topic and Martez Bazulis, who I did previously have going. Again, he has an elite combination of speed and athleticism. He is a great ball handler who's extremely crafty at losing defenders with his quick dribble moves. He's a great playmaker with extremely good court vision and is very capable of executing plays at high speeds. It's being said that he's one of the best shot creators in this whole entire draft, where there's no limit from where he can score from. He also puts a ton of effort on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively. Again, it is being said that he is compared to Tyrese Maxey or Anthony Simons right now, and I see Tyrese Maxey all over this guy. A really good scoring point guard who I think would work really well with this Pistons team, because we got to remember, even though he is a great playmaker, I don't necessarily know the Pistons extremely need their point guard to play make. They've got Cade there at that shooting guard position, who has already averaged himself like 8 assists per game throughout, the seasons that he's had. He, of course, will play shooting guard, it looks like, furthermore in his career, but will, of course, mainly play a bit of point guard on offense. That shooting guard, he'll obviously guard on defense, with a bit of small forward here and there, being 6'8". But Dillingham, he can come in, guard that point guard position, play maybe some shooting guard minutes here and there, obviously, when Cade has the ball in his hands. Good shooter, great shot creator, 15 points per game, of course, in his first college year. Again, the reality is there are some downsides with this player, though, unfortunately. Being 6'2" is decent, but doesn't have a lot of strength for a 6'2" guy, which has scared a lot of people. So that's definitely one to look at. His on-ball defense is also considered not the greatest, and he can get pushed around pretty easily and be considered a bit of a mismatch target. But the thing is, with the Pistons right now, they're looking for a lot of things. They're looking for scoring. They're looking at shooting. Their defense isn't the worst thing in the world. I think with how they're going to look at this right now, if you can draft Dillingham, who I still believe will be a better player than Jaden Ivey, of course, you can let Jaden Ivey go into that more six-man position like they think he will be in the NBA. I just think it makes sense. Dillingham's a perfect player to put alongside, of course, Cade Cunningham. They've got Asar Thompson at that 3 as well. And I think if they were to sign a power forward who could be a consistent shooter and then bring some shooters off the bench, there's no reason that team couldn't be really good in the future. You've got shot creators everywhere. Dillingham, obviously Cade Cunningham, and then of course Jaden Ivey. You've got defense in Duren and Thompson. You'll have floor spacing in Cunningham, maybe the 3-and-D power forward they decide to sign or whatever. Of course, shooting they might bring off the bench. And look, if the rumors are true that they're bringing in Tobias Harris to be another good shot creator and good shooter for this team, which, again, when Tobias Harris is on, he does shoot pretty well. When he's not, he can struggle. But if they're going to do this right, Dillingham at the 1, Cade at the 2, Thompson at the 3, Tobias Harris at the 4, Duren at the 5, Ivy as your 6-man, and then some shooting off that bench, that's a near playoff team. Give that team another couple more years to develop or whatever, and you could be looking at one of the more better teams in the NBA. But of course, if you haven't already, I'd really like to know what you guys think about my official 2024 NBA mock draft top 5 picks. Definitely don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions on these down below. Subscribe to my gaming channel, of course. Subscribe to my IRL/Long channel, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on any more NBA videos and all the latest draft content, this and that. Again, I highly appreciate you guys and how you guys have been around for all these draft videos. It's been absolutely awesome to make them. I've got a ton more coming out, so definitely stay tuned for that. But of course, again, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.